As I begin this series of biographies of the characters in Drive for Justice, a couple of quotations come to mind. One is an old Jewish saying that God could not be everywhere, therefore he made mothers. And Abraham Lincoln said, "All that I am or hope to be, I owe to my angel mother." John Quincy Adams, another president of the United States, said, "All that I am, my mother made me." And a Spanish proverb says, "An ounce of mother is worth a pound of clergy." But perhaps more appropriate is this quotation from William Penn. "He that does good for good's sake seeks neither praise nor reward, but is sure of both in the end." I want to tell you the story of Kari Simpson. Kari was a middle child born in Southern California to Canadian parents who were then living and doing business in the United States. She says her mother reminded her often about her earlier than normal talents for talking, walking, and determination. Kari's family lived in the exclusive upper middle class community of Rolling Hills. She spent her childhood days playing in the ocean, riding horses. Her parents, like so many other trendy Californians, divorced when she was 7. Her mother remarried, and the family grew by 2 more children, an older stepbrother and a sister. And her life's adventures grew as well, now to include winter fun skiing at Mammoth and weekend sailing to Catalina. At around age 10, her mother decided to sell the family home and move into a house still owned by her stepfather. It was quite a departure from the life she had grown up with thus far. Gone were the open spaces of the sprawling canyon playground that was her backyard. Gone was the security of a community where law and order prevailed. Gone were the lively parties. "We moved to Carson, California," she recalls. "I was enrolled in Anna Lee Elementary, where we were 3 among only about 10 white kids. I had never seen a metal detector at school until we went there." In fact, in grade 5, she recalls her friend, Sam, packing a gun for protection while she rode on the handlebars of his bicycle. "It wasn't boring," says Kari. "I learned a lot." But this experiment ended soon after her stepfather's new Cadillac was stolen from their garage. The family moved close to their previous location to the coastal community of Palos Verdes. In the summer of 1974, they returned to Canada on a holiday to Vancouver Island. Her mom, deciding to get back to nature, bought a small farm near Qualicum Beach. Kari and her siblings were soon milking goats, keeping chickens, and generally learning all the other aspects of a pretty primitive farm lifestyle. Because she was ahead of the other students in her grade at school, Kari was placed on half days and spent the rest of her time working on earning her private pilot's license. A quick study, she completed the program at age 15, which meant that she had to wait another year to obtain her actual license. In the meantime, while waiting, she completed her multi-engine and IFR certifications. She qualified for her commercial license, but once again had to wait until she was 18 to get the actual papers. At that point, she became one of the youngest commercial pilots in all of Canada. Engaged and living with her fiancé, Sean, an aircraft maintenance engineer, she continued to fly commercially until she became pregnant. Her doctor recommended an abortion to protect her career. Kari tells me that she just about decked the doc. It was also a pivotal moment for Kari in the politics of life, one that would grow into Kari becoming a formidable and fierce defender of life and protecting the rights of the unborn. Now happily pregnant, Kari and Sean did what trendy parents do. They planned their careers to now include a nanny. Kari says, laughing, "It made perfect sense. Stay at home with my baby for about 3 months, then get a nanny so I could carry on with my self-focused life." But that plan only lasted until a beautiful miracle named Catherine was placed in her arms, and it took less than an instant for her to realize nobody else is going to raise our baby. Well, life progressed, and soon there were 4 happy children in the busy Simpson household. One morning, while they were living in Richmond, B.C., this is about 1987, Kari got a frantic phone call from a friend. Her husband was being investigated, and social workers wanted to apprehend their children. The father had been accused of touching his daughter in the area covered by her bathing suit, a disclosure reported by her teacher. Kari began checking into the child protection program called CARE that was offered at her friend's school. She was also given details by a psychologist at the University of Alberta, and she was informed that a school principal named Alan Garneau knew about the program. Looking for more information, Kari called CKNW and talked to Rafe Mayer's producer. She asked, "Have you had anyone on your broadcast to talk about this school program?" The producer said, "No, what do you know about it?" The producer's own daughter, it turned out, had been through the program and grew so afraid of her father that she now slept with a baseball bat. So Mayer's producer said, "Would you come and do the show?" "Well, the principal would be better," said Kari. "Oh, we'll get him too, but we'd like to have a parent," said Rafe's producer. So Kari said, "If the principal will do it, I will too." Now, Alan Garneau, the principal, had done research on the child protection program. In fact, once he found out about it, he refused to allow it in the school where he was principal. But the day before they were both to appear on the Rafe Mayer broadcast, Alan Garneau called to say that he had been told if he did the show, there would be consequences. He subsequently left the public school system and started a successful private school. Kari did the show alone and began to get phone calls from people whose children had been apprehended. Kari phoned the School of Social Work to demand, "What are you teaching in this program?" Well, CKNW kept getting calls, and so they asked Kari to come back and do another show, and another, then another, and soon she was a regular weekly guest on the Rafe Mayer program. Other program hosts also wanted Kari as a guest, but Rafe insisted that she was his property. As a result of the programs Kari did with Rafe Mayer, the social credit government of the day became rather upset. Finally, Social Services Minister Norm Jacobson challenged Kari to a public inquiry. Ombudsman Stephen Owen conducted that inquiry, and in 1991, his Public Report number 24 showed that there was indeed a serious problem. Jacobson apologized to Kari and set in motion better laws to protect families from government abuse. Regrettably, the social credit government was defeated by the anti-family, pro-big union, pro-big government NDP. In 1993, the new NDP government brought in the Infants Act, which ignored parental rights, overstepped boundaries, and in effect made parents irrelevant. Health Minister Elizabeth Cole claimed the Infants Act was amended to treat all minors the same way. Under the old law, she said, people between the ages of 16 and 18 needed parental consent before getting medical treatment. For those under 16, common law applied, which meant doctors could treat them without consulting parents or guardians. But that was not true, says Kari. Obviously, the government was hell-bent on violating the rights of parents, so, she says, we took them to court. In March of 1993, we petitioned the court for a declaration that Section 16 of the Infants Act violates Section 2A and B and Section 7 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is part of Canada's Constitution. But a radical pro-choice judge and the Attorney General's lawyer an NDP hack who is now a provincial judge, ruled that a doctor can decide as long as the child agrees and the doctor believes that the proposed treatment is, quote, in the best interest of the child, unquote. Parents became irrelevant. A key point in issue at this case was whether adolescent girls could get abortions without their parents' consent, or even informing the parents. The NDP and court officials sympathetic to the left let that happen. Rafe Mayer and Kari Simpson did many shows on the Infants Act. In March 1993, Rafe Mayer endorsed Kari's nomination for Woman of Distinction Award, saying he was 110% behind her. In the mid-1990s, as a result of the respect Kari had earned for her work in protecting children and families, she was appointed to serve in a quasi-judicial capacity on the BC Child and Family Review Board. During this time, Kari got a call from an Aboriginal woman whose 5 children had been apprehended, after which the baby died. Child Protection Services wouldn't tell her what had happened. Kari, as a member of the Child and Family Review Board, demanded a review, and finally, after much political outrage, the minister of the day ordered it. Late in 1996, Kari began to get numerous calls from teachers who were concerned about a BC Teachers Federation convention resolution to promote, through curricular changes, favorable recognition of homosexuality. When she responded to the concerns of those teachers, Rafe Mayer suddenly turned on her. She was dropped from his broadcasts, and instead he began a series of radio and print editorials, more than 40, in which he maligned her by comparing her to Nazis, skinheads, and the Ku Klux Klan. Kari wanted Rafe charged with criminal defamation and hatred under Section 318 of the Criminal Code, but the Crown refused to charge Rafe. So Kari sued Mayer and CKNW for defamation in civil court. And that's where this story starts to unfold, a story that exposes judicial corruption, the denying of constitutional rights, a multitude of lies, and great mischief. It's a story that will enable you to better understand one determined individual's drive for justice. There are so many more good works that Kari has done on behalf of you and me and the protection of our families. In my opinion, Kari Simpson is a warrior defending families and parents and children's rights. But don't just take my word for it. Listen to what a prominent BC lawyer wrote in support of her nomination for Woman of Distinction in 1993. He writes, I cannot start an appraisal of Kari Simpson as a person without saying immediately that she is one of the people in this world I admire most. I say this for several reasons, which I will outline below. I first met Kari Simpson several years ago when she began expressing concern about how misuse of power in alleged child abuse cases was sideswiping innocent families. This was a most unfashionable thing to be concerned about, since the political correctness of the day, which largely continues, held that there was no such thing as innocence in such matters. It was largely an unpopular cause which Kari took up, and together we used my radio show to attract attention to injustice. It was my radio show, but the issue and the energy belonged to Kari. It was she who formed the Citizens Research Institute, an enormous undertaking. It was she who bore the financial and emotional burdens of being den mother, counsel to, and advocate for the unpopular yet badly oppressed minority. Kari is an activist in the very best sense of the word. It was because of her that the Ombudsman was instructed by the then Minister of Social Services to investigate her concerns, and it was as a direct result of that a task force was set up and that legislative changes had been proposed and made from a courageous stand on an unpopular side of an emotional issue. Kari's efforts brought about real change. When you think about it, it is remarkable that one person has gained such huge credibility with such a large audience as I am fortunate to possess. After all, Kari has been up against the establishment on the wrong side of a highly emotional issue. That she has obviously touched a nerve is clear from the response she gets. In my vocation, I meet all manner of activists. Most of them have a political agenda of some sort or other. Kari's inspiration comes instead from a deep commitment to the principles of democracy, fair play, and the worth of the family. My only hesitation in supporting Kari's nomination as Woman of Distinction is that this is too limiting. When one considers what she has accomplished and forced by dint of her commitment and dedication others to accomplish, she is a distinguished British Columbian and Canadian who has truly been an inspiration to all she has come in contact with. And what was the name of the lawyer who painted this glowing picture of Kari Simpson? Hold on to your hats. It was Rafe Mayer, and you'll learn more about him, much more, next week. I'm Ron Gray.